Hi, my name is Miss Newlove and I'm one of the hosts of a brand new show brought to you by Bestel Foundation.
The Wellbeing Show is to help reach BAME families, to help with mental health, support and emotional needs. The Wellbeing Show streams live every Tuesday at 8 to 9 p.m. on Diversity Radio via Facebook, YouTube and Mixcloud. So tell your family and friends to tune in as we discuss topics that affect our well-being. The Wellbeing Show is proudly sponsored by NHS South London and Maudsley, the National Lottery Community Fund, and partnered with Real Insight, BASE, 60 Seconds Creative Studio, and Gold Diggers Talk Show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bestel Foundation's The Wellbeing Show. Today is Tuesday, the 12th of April, and as usual, I have my co-host, Ms. Jacqueline Obeng. See, base, become a successful entrepreneur. But before I ask her to join me, I would like to thank our sponsors and partners, as I always do. Our sponsors are South London and Maudsley NHS Trust, the National Lottery Community Fund. Our partners are Diversity Radio. We're streaming live right now on Diversity Radio and also on Bestel Foundation's YouTube. The Real Insight Consultant, 60 Seconds Creative Studio, and BASE once again, and also Gold Diggers Talk Show, which is my talk show. So I'm very excited today because we have a really special guest in the house, as DJs would say. His name is Mr. Francis Jehu Appiah, also known as DJ Francis. And today we're speaking, our topic is mental health with men within the BAME communities. So I'm going to allow my co-host Jacqui to come on.
Hi, good evening, guys. Hi, Miss Newlove and
Good evening,
Mr. Jehu Appiah. Welcome to the Wellbeing Show. It's good to be back once again this week. We had a brilliant show last week with addressing racism and the health inequalities which affect mental health within the BAME community. We had our guest, Mr. Simon Danley from SLAM, not NHS UK, which is Head of Nursing and Quality for Right Care. He contributed an in-depth, information about the BAME community and how they assess the system, the health system within the UK. So we've got really an interesting topic today. We know how to address, mental health within, the BAME quality community. We've also dealt with how to deal with our well-beings, but particularly in men is quite a different area altogether. So we've got to discuss the issues with men. DJ Francis, that's his name we used to call him, but Francis Jehu Appiah. He's going to be with us today. He's also from the BAME community and will be telling us his experience with mental health, to be quite honest. So, Mr. Jehu Appiah, could you tell us about your background, who you are, and we will just kick off. And thanks for everybody for joining in.
Well, first of all, thank you for identifying me as a BAME. I really appreciate that.
We need to be formal now, so we all fall under the BAME community, you see.
Of course. But I appreciate that introduction. Obviously, DJ Francis, I mean, more than a DJ. I'm an entrepreneur, businessman, a father. I like to add that bit as well because it's important. And also, yeah, and obviously, I work on the radio as well as TV doing presentations. So that's me in a nutshell.
Right. So you're going to tell us, first of all, what you do, your background about your employment, your promoting. Tell us about who you are.
Sure. Do you want me to do that for you?
Oh gosh, I mean, the CV spans from far, so it's quite hard to really know.
I know. So can you just fast forward it 10 years? Then we want to go back.
Well, fast forward 10 years. I'll tell you what. Let's go with what I'm doing now.
Okay.
So now I'm working on a project. I just finished working on a project for the NHS.
Okay.
So I'm an IT consultant. So I just finished working, and at the moment I've just started a new contract working for a bank, well-known bank, which I don't really want to advertise, but I actually this week. So yeah, that's me on a personal work level. And obviously, as you know me, I do lots of events, including Wire to Worship. You know, so I mean, I mean, the events are endless. So, but Wire to Worship is the one I'm working on at the moment. Hence why it's on my head.
Okay, well, we've seen that you've done a bit of touring around a bit of countries. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, traveled a lot. I must admit, I've toured all over the world. Through the Caribbean, Jamaica, St. Lucia. Oh, I've done a bit of the South America with the Brazil, Panama. I've done the whole Middle Eastern thing, been to the Oman, literally almost every Middle Eastern country apart from Iran, for obvious reasons. Africa as well. I've done most African countries over the East Africa. I've done all the North African countries. I've done all the Eastern African countries apart from just one, Malawi, which I'm yet to do. So yeah. Obviously West Africa. So I love traveling. That's me. I'm a traveler. Okay.
Well, the reason you're here is Una Freak. You need to tell me what Una Freak is about.
So Una Freak is not what it sounds, right? Un is number one for French. Is one for French. Is un, and Afrique is African in French. So we just wanted to be different. You know, we got our Franco-Africans as well. Normally we always cater just for the English Africans. The language of the program was going to be in English anyway. So we thought, you know what, the best thing to do is let's entice the Franco-speaking guys in as well. So we thought to take a twist on it, call it Une Afrique, because he caters for the whole of Africa. So it's one Africa in French.
Amazing. Well, welcome to the Wellbeing Show, Francis. Once again, that's a very impressive CV. And thank you for being here and discussing a very important topic with us, and how on how you've overcome challenges with as a man from the BAME community, specifically the African community. So, you know, we don't take you for granted, because it's not easy, as we're going to discuss later, about opening up about these things and the stigmas that come with it. But before we go into that, we just want to remind people that Bestel's Child and Adult Psychiatric Foundation are committed to ensuring accessibility of their services, either via their website and various social media platforms. Alternatively, you can contact members of our team if you're affected by any mental health issues or you need support. Our details are going across the screen and will be going across the whole way through the show. So you can find out more about Bestel on their website. And as I said, follow our social media pages, very important. We're on Twitter, Facebook. We also have a YouTube page, which we're streaming from live now. So please go and hit that subscribe button on YouTube, so you can get updates of what's going on with Bestel Foundation. So over to you, Jacqueline.
Sure. So at this moment, we're just going to go through the logistics about mental health and how it affects men, and a bit of background of, you know, the type of men that actually experience these things. So in England, around 1 in 8 men has a common mental health problem, such as, you know, depression, anxiety, panic disorders, or obsessive compulsive disorder, which is OCD. So there are other signs that gives us a bit, you know, a bigger picture of what mental health is about. So, you know, apparently these times, during these times, many people do pass away, or, you know, do be affected about mental health. And apparently from men aged 40 to 49 are the highest risk in terms of suicide within the UK. Also, men report lower levels of life satisfaction than women, according to the Government National Wellbeing Survey. So I don't know, maybe midlife crisis, we will call it. Do you see what I mean? Midlife crisis in men. So I'm sure Francis would tell us all about that.
I'm too young for that.
About that. Men are less likely to assess psychological therapies than women. Only 36% of referrals to the NHS talking therapies are for men. So only a few number of men do these talking therapies. And I think you're one of them, because obviously we had a lot of talking therapies in the past. So I understand that. And in addition, men are far more likely than women to go missing. sleeping roughly, depending on alcohol, use of drugs frequently, a whole big picture about what, men go through. So I'm just going to skip through a lot of reading. You tell us your views about these pointers that I've just mentioned. Do you agree about these statistics? How did any of those affected you? What experience have you had about these pointers that have been mentioned? And also, what do you think with the mental health experience that you went through? Were they common with these lot? So, Francis, we'll give you 5-10 minutes. Tell us, and I'll be prompting you if you've missed anything.
Oh gosh, mental health. In my view, I'm very, very a strong advocate of mental health because my grandfather was actually one of those people who used to take in back in the days what we used to call in Ghana asylums. And
Right.
actually, sorry, and proactively do apologize. People trying to text me middle of me, even though I've tried to switch it off. So it's something I'm very close to. My grandmother always said to me that nobody's actually, back in the days we used to say mad. And she said, nobody's actually mad. Sometimes you just have a different perception of what life is or what the reality is. And what a person's perception is, one person's perception doesn't always mean that, the person is strange, mad or different or has, and I just took such an interest in mental health because of it, because I realized that mental health is something that doesn't just affect you once in a lifetime, but it's something you live with on a daily basis. And it is something that you need to, and I realized that in life growing up, I dealt with a lot of mental health issues personally, and I didn't seek help. I never went to anybody and said, oh, I think I've got this problem and this dilemma, I need help. Can somebody help me out? I used to always just assume that, toughen up, deal with it yourself and get on with it. And that's how we were brought up. And this is what I've been dealt with. So all my life, I just went on trying to just deal with things until recently where I started talking to other people about their mental health that made me realize that actually there's a subject here and there's an issue here that we need to address, and that mental health does affect not just because you've had a loss, not necessarily because, it could be a traumatic experience in your childhood. It could be going back, lack of family support. It could be because your teacher. It could be various reasons why people will suffer from mental health. And it's only when I start to look at it from that perspective, I said, yeah, I kind of understand mental health now. And do you get what I mean? So
yeah,
that's what got me into the whole interest thing. So that's what got me so interested in Bestel as a movement, because I've just felt like, look, I hate that. Well, I can't say I hate it, but it's a description that BAME, as a BAME community, we do not deal with mental health in the way that we should deal with it, in the sense that we tend to brush it under the carpet. Me, for example, I personally, on my personal level, and I can only give myself as a personal experience. When I lost my brother and my best friend and my mum, literally in the space of a week,
right,
it took a lot of mental strength. Do you understand, to overcome that? But at the same time, I had a lot of mental breakdowns as a result of it. But when you're in the public,
that's what we wanted. We want for you to elaborate.
Sure,
what sort of things did you go through? If you don't need to go into detail, just give us a brief summary how it felt like.
Well, let's put it this way: the hardest thing for me was people not actually understanding how you feel as an individual.
Right.
I mean, you have to put this into perspective. What I'm saying here, I'm at the hospital on a Sunday. You get told your mum is died, and on the very Monday that your mum dies, you then told that your brother's body's been released, so you got to go and view it. So it's literally like viewing two dead bodies in like space of 24 hours. Does that make sense? So
yes,
at the time, people were telling me, oh, sending me messages, and I'm like, all your messages and everything cannot. I don't know how to explain it. All the comforting just could not adhere to what I was going through at the time. So I just went through a shutdown stage where I was like, do you know what? I just need to shut down and be me. Does that make sense?
I understand. So how did you do that? Shut down?
It took a lot of friends. It took a lot of friends.
So you used the support with your friends and family around you.
I had a really good family support. I mean, I have to say, some of the closest people to me were there for me. I love to call everybody out, but there are so many, it'd be unfair just to call one person out. Of course. But because of who I am generally as a person as well, a lot of people gravitated around me. A lot of people, were in my corner trying to see if I'm okay. But a lot of the time, to be honest, when people were around is when I actually felt sad.
Really?
Yes, because people kept reminding me of the trauma that I was going through.
Right.
When all I wanted to do was just get on with it. I'm like, okay, I've got a funeral to take care of here. I've got to do this. I've got very, very practical about it. I remember the first day, and this is, if my sister's watching, she'll remember this. The first day when we came back from the hospital, we came inside the house. You know what I did? I started tidying up.
Wow.
Can you imagine? You've just been to the hospital where you've lost your mum, and you've gone into the house to reflect, and your brother as well, of course, to reflect. And all I could think about is, I need to get the house tidy because we're going to get visitors. We're going to get guests. Does that make sense to you? It's like,
so I would not being a medical or clinical, person, as we always say on this show. Yeah, we will assume that was a bit of a depression stage.
Oh, definitely. Oh, sorry. People are texting me, and please see the link. Sorry, I do apologize. Please, if anyone's listening, don't text me now. Okay. We'll talk after the show. But no, it was literally. I don't know whether the depression. I'll be honest with you. The depression stage didn't come immediately. The depression stage actually came about a year later.
Okay.
Okay, so can I interrupt the both of you, because you've gone way ahead of my show.
Oh, sorry.
But can I just intervene a little bit? So because we're going to go into the depression and all that stuff. So focusing on depression and stress, which are normally the first things we go through as individuals, when we start to think about mental health, is depression and stress different for men? While there isn't a different sort of male depression, some symptoms are more common in men than women. These include irritability, sudden anger, and an increased loss of control, plus taking your aggression, like having aggression. So men may also be more likely to use alcohol and drugs to cope with their depression rather than talking about it, as Jacqui mentioned before. They may use escapism behavior too, such as throwing themselves into their work. So as you've been talking and you've spoken about, the death of your mother, your best friend, and your brother, and, then you went on to when people were coming around, it actually made it worse because they'll be asking you questions or whatever. That kind of sounds like you wanted to go into some sort of isolation, which comes with depression and all that. But as I stated here, it says that men like to throw themselves into their work. So did you find that during these times you started to, do other things? Like you said, you just came home and started cleaning. Did you find yourself throwing yourself into work or doing other things and just trying to ignore the fact that, you're going through something? Is this something, can you relate to this statement?
Honestly, what you said, you've hit the nail on the head. Honestly, perfectly put. You couldn't have put it better myself. That is exactly what I was going through. I just threw myself into things that, look, I even went to Ghana for 6 months. And people said, what was you doing? I said, I decided to raise some chickens, raise some goats. And people laugh, and I'm like, honestly, I decided to do some gardening for the first time. I started to do things that I've never, ever thought of doing. I threw myself into it because it just felt easier. Mm-hmm. It was easier not to think, because when you're busy, you have less time to dwell on things.
What's actually happening, the reality.
Exactly. So a lot of people said, now you were just hiding away from the reality, and hence why I hit you a lot later in life, later down the line. But I was like, no, it wasn't that. At the time, my coping mechanism was, look, I just need to get through this. Mm-hmm. I just need to get through this and do all the practical things that was my only, because obviously, I mean, you ladies both know, being in the public eye as well, where people always, I'm sorry, judging us, regardless of what we do, whether we do good or bad, people always have something to say negative. You have to always put some kind of a persona as well. I always have to be seen smiling, I always have to be seen happy. And because I'm that kind of jovial person anyway, a lot of people didn't see the behind tears. But the real tears used to come, I'll be honest with you, when people leave and you start going through all the questions that they've asked you and the things they've talked about, or the memories that they've shared with you, and then you start reminiscing it to yourself, not when they're there, but after they've left. That's when sometimes you're like, oh gosh, you know what I mean? It hits you, and yeah. And that's why I said I find it harder when people came around and when I was on my own, because when I was on my own, I was just working. You know, a lot of the stuff that you see even on the Una Freak show now was testament to that, because I just said, right, I've got to come back and I've got to do something different. And then people were like, oh no, you got to go back on the radio. You know, people was pushing me to do things that I didn't want to do. And I was like, no, this is what I need to do. And it's made me more focused as a result of it. So in some ways as well, it did help me as well to understand people, because, you know, there are some friends out there and there are some friends, you know, and sometimes situations make you understand friends. And it really made me put things, because I thought I love everybody, so everybody must love me. That was my stupid naivety thinking. I love everybody. I don't hate anyone. But then you realize that actually there's some people that are actually glad for your downfall sometimes.
Yeah, in our community, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a tough challenge. I'll be honest with you, anyone who's going through mental health, I'll be honest, or going through similar things, or have gone through similar things, try and relate and understand that, look, this is not something to be, I was never ashamed of it. That's one thing I wasn't. I was never ashamed to talk about the fact that I've lost my brother or lost my mum. People used to be nervous around talking about it to me, but I was never nervous about it, because I was like, look, it's reality. It's happened. What do you want me to do? Do you know what I mean? I can't turn back the clock. So let's talk about it. So it's the people tiptoeing around you. It's a lot of situations that I don't know. I'm trying to express myself in a way that people can understand what I was going through, without people, you know, not taking it like, oh, it was all. Yeah. I wasn't a macho man by any standard. I didn't act hard or try and say I could deal with everything. But to be honest, like I said, I find it really hard. I broke down at my brother's burial. Sorry, now that was hard. That was very difficult. If I could recall back all the times through all the incidents that happened, I think the hardest one for me was at the church when I looked at my brother's coffin and I realized that, hold on a minute, this is actually a reality. This is no dream. This is no joke. You're not going to wake up tomorrow. This is your brother lying in a coffin next to you, and that's it. You know, and honestly, I wanted to smash the thing open and wake him up. Because I was so like, no, this cannot, you know. And I think, yeah, reality really, really hit me at that time. I mean, with my mum, reality, like I said, hit me a lot later, because there was so much to deal with the preparation for a funeral, because she's a queen. So I go to Ghana and prepare the funeral, and you know, the elders, the chief elders, the kings and the queens of the different tribes, they kind of hijacked the whole thing, and so that was slightly different. I didn't get a chance to mourn her until really afterwards. But my brother's one was, I think that was very, very painful, publicly painful.
Yeah, grief is something that really affects our mental health. I think Jacqui will discuss grief on its own another time, isn't it? Is Jacqui there? Are you there, Jacqui?
Oh.
Maybe she's not there. Maybe we've lost her slightly. Are you there, Jacqui? No? Okay. I might have to take over then.
Me, I've come and hijacked the show.
Yeah, you come and take it over our show. You might as well be my co-host now that Jacqui's disappeared. Where is she? So yeah, she has. I think we've lost her. So I think the next question, which Jacqui was supposed to ask you, you've kind of answered it already. Because I was going to say, can you tell us about, your own mental health and what were your triggers? So let's talk about the things that triggered.
Mental health.
Obviously, you've spoken about the deaths and, but is there any other thing like that triggered depression or, anxiety?
Yeah. Being in this industry, like I said, being in the industry, there's any artist, DJ, so any presenter, you have to know that the anxiety of being in the game with itself is high.
Yes.
Because it's high pressure. It's all about perception.
It's like playing a role, isn't it?
Exactly. It's almost like playing a role. A lot of people don't realize that it is just that you play a role that people. In your private world, only very few people actually have access to me. But yet everybody thinks they know me.
Yeah.
That's how everybody thinks they know you, but only very few I've actually got personal access to me that can say, right, and tell me about myself.
Yeah.
Even down to my children. Sometimes people are like, oh, he's got, but you've never seen them. It's only a few people.
I was actually thinking that the other day because I was going through Instagram. I was like, oh, Francis is like me, doesn't really post his children. I can't see any children. Which is a good form of protection because, you have to keep some things private. Absolutely.
And because of that as well, I had to put on a big, brave front. So a lot of it as well was like, I can't be seen to be too down. I can't be seen to be too fallen. Do you know what I mean? Even down to when you do events, even the anxieties of, if the event is not successful, how are you going to be perceived? If, doing a Una Freak show, the first time we came back on Omega TV, it was the most nerve-wracking show I've ever done, ever. And I don't know, I don't normally get nervous, but I was really nervous.
I loved your show with DJ Zell, actually, and I forgot the other guy's name.
Eddie.
But it was really good, and I like the way it had a good balance because obviously she's a young girl.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a show that's on in the evening, and you could have got carried away and said the wrong things, or but you kept it very neutral, and I like the way you controlled the show.
Thank you.
It was really good. I actually watched it from beginning to end. It was really, really good.
Thank you for that. I watch your shows from beginning to end every week as well, to be fair, because and this is what I'm on here, because I want to encourage men. I want to encourage especially black men. Look, Ghanaian men, any men. Look, let's not be around the bush. I personally didn't go and get help, professional help, shall I say. I relied on friends, and I'm like, again, through just life struggles of things I've been through, I've managed to get a bit more broader shoulder. I know it's probably going to hit me one day, but let's not be scared to deal with depression. Let's not be scared to deal with loss. Loss doesn't just come in the form of death. People lose their cars, people lose their jobs, people lose their wives, people lose all types of stuff. It's not just, people just think, oh, it's depression because you've lost. No, I was depressed when I lost my job.
Exactly. And there's so many triggers, that can lead to depression.
Yeah. And we don't deal with it. And another thing you said is self-medicating. I'll be honest with you, all my friends but all my good friends, they self-medicate. Like you said, through alcohol, through I use that word.
Substances, whichever. Whatever has to be done.
Whatever has
to be.
Yeah.
And it's something like, statistically, next week we'll have Simon on because he's more of a clinical professional. But, he was talking about this last week that, a lot of people from the BAME community, Black and Asians, they, get dependent on he was quite honest, actually. He said particularly Black people get very dependent on, cannabis, marijuana, and, but because we see it as something like for cultural purposes, I don't want to get into all that, it's like there's such a big issue around that thing. But sometimes when you're going through, things mentally, is it a good idea to be, intoxicating yourself or,
Yes.
And we know it's not good to overdrink. We know it's not good to smoke, but I mean, the statistics are there. which is, you know, we can't take that away. That
can I be a blunt? Smoking, I mean, look, marijuana as itself as a drug, or as a, what's it called? I mean, I'm not an expert, but it does help in, you know, sometimes in some situations. But like with everything, you know, I got a friend that he has one glass of wine. Honestly, he will have communion wine and get drunk. I'm serious.
Yeah. Everyone's different. Everyone's different. So yeah. So moving on to the next question, because we don't want to focus everything on you. We do want to get your opinions on, because we do value your opinions. So as a man who is a public figure within the African community, how important is it to share your own experiences or struggles with mental health openly? Recently, we've seen the likes of, you know, African-American men like Kanye West saying he's bipolar, Jay-Z even admitting to going to therapy for his family. You know, it seems like a lot of celebrities and Black public figures are coming out more about their own mental health issues and, you know, things that they mechanisms that they're using to cope. So do you think, like, from, you know, now to like 10 years ago, things have changed in terms of how we talk about mental health? How was it 10 years ago?
10 years ago, it was non-existent. As a Black guy growing up, I can't even imagine even talking about mental health unless somebody made a derogatory comment like I was homosexual or something like that, just for having a mental problem. Do you understand? And that's the fact. In the Black community, we looked down at people that, you know, suggested that they had mental issues. We laughed at people that suggested that they had mental breakdowns. We seem to mock these people as, you know, as like almost like it was a trophy for us to be able to do. And it's sad in a way. And like I said, it's only now that we are coming together. And I think I'm here talking about it openly, about my own breakdowns, or, you know, that I had. And I've had plenty. I mean, like I said, it's not just, you know, losing my parents. When I was a child, you know, growing up, you got to remember the trauma of being moved from one country to another, then dragged back to another, changing schools. By the time I was the age of 10, I'd been to, I think, 15 different schools.
Oh, wow.
Do you understand? That's like different friends here, there. And so there's childhood traumas as well. There's there's so much that happens to us as people, but we choose not to address it, and we flip out, we get angry, we take it out on our partners. Have so many issues in our relationships with our children, with our peers, with so many, because we don't deal with these issues properly. Hence why I'm here to say that, look, me personally, if you're going through anything that, even if it's just a simple depression, if talking to a friend is not going to help, if you seek professional advice, this is what the NHS is there for. It's a great institution.
Exactly, Okay, you're right. It's so important to seek help. But then, I mean, Simon spoke about this, you know, the way Black people get treated when they do seek help. That's another ballgame. But, you know, like you said, it's important to seek help. So that's why we have, you know, organization like Bestel. And like I said before, that if you're going through anything, or you need advice, or you feel like you're scared to go to your doctor, you know, you can always contact Bestel Foundation, you know, confidentially. And get some advice from our staff. So like I said, the details are going across the screen. And so let's go to like the pandemic. And I think the pandemic has really like brought a highlight to mental health and made like normalized the term mental health. You know? And do you think that it's allowed men, do you feel like the conversations that you have with your fellow men, African men, Black men, BAME men, have changed now around mental health since this global pandemic?
To some degree, yes, because obviously we've been stuck with the media where all they've done is talk about mental health. So ultimately, it made us address it. I must admit, and I have to credit the government or the NHS as well for highlighting the issue. I love to credit people like Bestel. Like, you know, this is a great organization for highlighting the issue, because this is what's missing. The missing link is, unfortunately, there's too many white institutions that don't understand problems. And there's too many of them. They need to close them all and give the money to the people who know how to deal with the actual issues. You can't come and tell me, and I'm sorry, this is where I think where a lot of Black people choose, or they get misdiagnosed when they go to, because if I was to tell, excuse me, even somebody born, even a Black person born here, just now, recently that, you know what, I had to get dragged to fear there. I went to this school, that school. It's a conception that they can't even conceive in their head. So how can a person possibly even try to help you? But I know this story I'm telling you. I know about 400 other Africans that have been through this.
Yes, you're right.
Do you understand? So this is, we need the right people in place. And another thing as well that I really want to encourage, and I don't know whether it's in your topic to come, but I just want to encourage people from the ethnic minority to take up positions of physicians, to do psychology, to understand what they're learning about us. You know what? I'm sorry to say, white people know more about us than we know about ourselves.
That's true.
Dangerous. We need to get into these institutions. We need to learn. We need to learn about ourselves. Listen, they could put an advert on today that will trigger every Black person to be, no, did you see that? No. Do you understand? Because they know your psyche. They know how to get you. Mm. Recently, every single advert out there has got either mixed race people or some Black person in it. It's not because of, what's it called? It's not by accident. They know why. Because
the Black Lives Matter movement really...
and also it sells.
Something different. It was there before, but I think that really started a different type of... Yeah. Yes, yeah.
We won't look at that, but I mean, all I'm saying is basically, we need institutions. We need Black institutions. We need Black physicians. We need people that have our background, our understanding. Do you understand? And when I say this, I don't mean it. Look, most doctors, I'm sorry, that go to Oxford or go to whatever big universities or whatever they went to get their degree to be a physician. Your parents did all right to get you there. Mm-hmm. Our parents had to struggle to get us there. So the struggles that we went through, you might have got the same degree as me, but you don't have the same experience to get that degree. You don't know how many crazy nights that our sister has had to sleep because they didn't even want to, their head to touch the pillow because how expensive it was to do their hair. You understand what I mean? Simple little things like that. It seems really trivial, but it's a fact.
Yeah, you're right.
The understanding of the people you're dealing with. You're lying if you say you're really dealing with them, because you're dealing with them based on a textbook written by you, based on your...
Exactly. And that's why we're doing this show, Francis. And that's why we've got you here. And it's, really exciting to hear all the, experience and the emotions you went through. You need to tell us how you overcame all those emotions. It's quite difficult because you had a fantastic support network, family, friends. Even though you didn't want us around, you wanted to be by yourself and do your stuff. We were constantly there. And not everybody in the community has got that strong, network with them. So if you can give us some pointers for other men that are listening, because I went through the list, talks about drugs, talks about alcohol, it talks about a whole lot of things that people rely on. Whilst obviously you didn't go on those things. You had, people, human beings to rely on, which is really beneficial for you. So how, for example, if you do not have this support network, how would you overcome such emotions? How would you overcome without not clinically, going into that support? As Simon talked about, there's so many support out there, and hopefully we're going to have Simon next week. I don't know if you're going to be available next week, but obviously you didn't get to that stage. So it'll be quite difficult, to interpret your experiences with the clinical specialist, obviously, intake about it. So just tell us how you overcame it, basically.
Oh, by the way, Simon's wonderful. I really like that guy. He's got some really interesting things to show, and you guys were brilliant. How did I overcome it? You know what? It sounds really corny, and I know everybody says it, but God. Simple. God is my savior. God is my everything. Because in the times when I didn't have nobody, in the times when I was so low, in the times when I felt like I just wanted the earth to pick me up and swallow me. I just wanted to disappear. The times when I had just thought of God, and I was like, you have somebody out there who, regardless of what you're going through, is looking out for you. You know, and I think that inspiration of finding, or not even finding, because I always had God, but just rekindling that relationship with God, especially during the COVID times, just finding him again and just rebonding with him and just having that beautiful understanding of God was the biggest. Yeah. And I know a lot of people are not religious. So, but for me personally, that was my savior.
Right. So we'll assume that obviously you're a very religious person. You seek, to God, and also God gave you your support network, which was us.
Absolutely.
It was us to keep you going.
No, but,
however, people can use different medium of overcoming. It could be the local systems. Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest with you. Look, okay, I'm slightly bit fortunate, and I'll talk from a bit of when I say this, because like you said, I've got a lot of great support network. I was able also to afford to travel a lot to get away from it all, which a lot of people might not be in a position to be able to do. So I think getting away is important. Changing surroundings is very important. Also,
what else do you do?
I found invested a lot of time in my children, which is also really, really nice. And I think it's just finding fun, finding life again, realizing that, look, life is for living.
Yes.
Regardless of what's happening, regardless of what's going on, I'm alive. I've still got breath. I can breathe. I could still do things. So I started saying, look, let me enjoy it every day. Let's just enjoy life a little. And I started doing that. And you just
go. What about the kids? Did you have to talk about, to the kids about it?
Kids are very difficult, Jacqui. I have to be honest with you. Anyone who's going through this or has been through this will know that probably the hardest part for me was breaking the news to the children. I think the first person I broke the news to actually was my niece, Sari, and I nearly gave her a heart attack on the phone.
Oh my goodness!
Just thinking about it now is that scream that she screamed in my ear, because actually I hear it now, and I think that was really about talking about. I mean, I'm feeling emotional now. Because
when you were going through your struggles, did you have to talk to the kids about it?
Yes, definitely. I had to sit them down and say, look, guys, right now, I'm not me. My normal self. I might be a bit snappy. I might be a bit I might not be thinking right. I might be forgetful. But please, it's not that because I don't love you. It's not because I'm not. It's because I'm going through something that is quite traumatic at the moment. And also I was looking out for their interest as well, because obviously I didn't want them to, do you understand what I mean? So yeah.
So they did help a lot.
Oh, I'll be honest with you, the children were amazing, because obviously my focus was on them, because once you lose your members of your family, especially your mom, and my dad a long time ago, so once you lose both of those, I think the next thing your kids come first, but they come second. So it just made that concentration into my kids a little bit more than I think usual. Like I was more attentive. I was more aware of what they were doing. And I was,
So being a role model, and if anything happens to any male figure around you, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, first of all, is find your network.
Right.
Find your network. And remember, not everybody is your network.
Okay.
They're going to come around just to frustrate you. I call them a piece of progress.
So did that happen? Somebody was frustrating you within your network?
Oh, yes. There's people that come and frustrate you. Definitely. There's people that will come and bless you. There's people that will come around because they, for whatever reason, they just like funerals, or they just like depression, or they just like drama. Honestly, there are people out there like that. They just like to see you when you're down. They want to be around. Not to support you, but just want to glow or glee. So, yeah.
Right. What else? So support network. Talking therapies with the family so that they know that.
Talk to your family. Talk to them and understand what you're going through. Don't isolate them, because then they think that they're part of the problem. So assure them that they're not the problem, and the problem is not just for you, but it's the situation. And that's another thing as well. It's not a problem with you, it's a situation. And everything can change. Do you understand? So it's not permanent. And that's what you people have to keep reminding themselves. This is the situation I'm going through now, but it's not permanent. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay.
Just want to say, give a shout out to the people that have tuned in. We've lost him. Jacqui, today we haven't mentioned nobody. So thank you to Rosemary Abuba for tuning in. She's always tuning in, like you, Francis. Thank you so much. Also, Stella, the founder of Bestel, had a lot to say. I'm going to read what she said out in a second. Sari, as usual, thank you so much. And she said she's been listening to us and you're doing a great job. You did well. You just got on with it. The planning of the funeral got you occupied, but I'm sure behind closed doors, that's when the reality hit. Bless you. Rosemary said, we love you, DJ Francis. Elizabeth Anwar joined in as well. Stella said, lovely show. Support network is a strong recipe for anyone going through difficult times. Stella said, Sari said, we have a big family. So I'm sure the love was abundant at the time. So it's unfortunate because like you were saying, a lot of people don't have a big family. You know, they don't have a loving, caring family. Some people's problem is their family.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
that's another issue, especially in the BAME Black community. A lot of the issues actually come from us.
Yeah.
You know, and she said every one of us has experienced mental illness one way or the other. Exactly. Our strength and determination plus support from friends and family is what makes us or breaks us. She said, sharing your experience today, Francis, I believe would open doors for others to seek help.
Oh, thank you.
And she said, yes, network is key. And Stella said, diving into your own shell when feeling low is very dangerous. And it is, because even myself, isolation's not good for me, but I like to be isolated when I'm going through my stuff. But it makes things worse because I realize that when you start talking to people, you actually feel better. Then you think to yourself, so why have I been isolating myself all this time? You know, I could have just picked up the phone and spoke to Jacqui and said, you know, I feel like this. Or I could have picked up the phone to someone and just told them how I'm feeling. And, you know, when you speak to someone who cares about you and has your best interests at heart, you always feel better afterwards.
True.
You know, just a little seed that they sow into your spirit, you know, just makes you feel a lot better. So, guys, if you're out there and, you know, you're keeping yourself to yourself when you're feeling low, it's really not the way. Because I know myself from personal experience is not the way.
No, definitely. I always like to, you know, pick up the phone to call somebody. I'm really furious with that, or, you know, upset about this. How can we get through it? And you instantly will get solution. And then, you know, you just get on with it. So it's really, really tricky when you get into that stage, that difficult situation. Yeah. So I think Nathaniel was on there as well.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Nathaniel was on, and Nathaniel's a bit of a newbie. Sorry, Nathaniel.
He's always on there every week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nathaniel.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the people that tune in.
Yeah.
And share the show as well with their family and friends. Thank you so much. And thank you once again, Francis, for being on the show and sharing your own views and experiences with us. So next week, we're going to be joined by Simon once again, who's probably going to, you know, go into it more clinically. And I'm sure he's going to watch this show back and probably have some good feedback on some of the things you've mentioned. So in the meantime, if you're concerned about a friend or relative, a man, you know, and what you can do to help them, like we said before, Bestel Foundation are here to help you. And, you know, behind the Bestel team, there's psychiatrists, clinical psychologists. We have our CEO, Stella, who's also a mental health nurse. So, you know, they're the right people to contact. Me and Jacqui are not clinical staff. We just bring up the topics and talk about them from, you know, a normal perspective, like normal person's perspective, like we have done with you today, because you're not a a professional, or you're just talking from your own experiences and how
exactly
you felt.
Before you conclude, we forgot the video, so we need to play the video first.
I haven't gone there yet. I'm actually going over your bit because you disappeared for a bit. So I think maybe because you disappeared, you lost track a little bit. But yeah, so going back on what you said, you asked Francis what advice would he give to someone that's going through stuff right now, isn't it? And he gave his opinion. We said contact Bestel, but then also you can let them know that you're listening to them without judgment. Sometimes we go to our friends and family about our problems, and it's important not to criticize or judge what they're saying and just listen, kind of be a counselor to them. Texting and messaging a friend that you think's in need, which is a good thing. Jacqui does that with me all the time. She texts me and says lovely things.
That's that beauty.
So if you're worried about somebody, or you have a feeling someone's, going through depression or anxiety, especially a man, because men are different from women, you could just text them and say, hi, what's up? How you feeling? How you doing? That's the best way to get through to a man, isn't it? By, just a phone call. And also you can find out about local services, talking therapy groups. But like we said, we're not the specialists. So Bestel Foundation's, here for that. So please contact them. All the details are going across the screen. So yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Jacqui.
I think you've no, let's just play the video. It's fine. Just play the video.
Our No Shave Today campaign this morning, one of the least talked about issues affecting men, mental health. As part of its focus this year, the Movember Foundation put out a candid video encouraging men to open up. We sat down with two Movember ambassadors to hear their stories.
Men are so focused on the ideal of masculinity and how they have to appear to be. We forget to cry. We forget to be emotional, to show vulnerability, to show pain.
For a long time, there's been this gender stereotype that men are meant to be really tough and strong and brave. When I dropped out of high school, it was because I was mentally unwell.
At 17, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, a severe form. In battling that disease, people forgot that I was a human being.
I know how hard it is to talk about this sort of stuff. I know how much of a barrier there can be, particularly for men, whether it might be seen as being weak or not manly enough or whatever.
We need to talk about this. We need to be honest about it.
It's one of those things that's kept under wraps so much. It's so much more common than we realize, and we just hide it.
Let's change the conversation. Let's make it a point for humankind to recognize that the brain is an organ just like every other part of the body, and sometimes needs help.
Every single person on the planet can be a part of making mental health mainstream.
Whatever you're going through, whatever pain you're experiencing, you matter most. It's okay to be in pain. You're human.
It doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you less of a person. It makes you someone who has a condition or a situation that can be helped. So please get the help. You'll thank yourself for it later.
Here with more on men and mental health, Dr. Mehmet Oz and Dr. Stephen Snyder, a professor of psychiatry at Mount Sinai. Guys, good morning to both of you.
Morning.
We're talking about embarrassment again. Tuesday, we talked about men being embarrassed to talk about testicular cancer. Now we're talking about men being embarrassed to talk about mental health.
You know, the reality is the most profound thing we're embarrassed about is our mental health. And it's not just about losing lives. It's about quality of life. We don't want to be backing our way through existence. So we spend a lot of time in our joint survey asking questions with provocative insights gained about why men aren't talking about their minds.
Nearly half of the men, 46%, say they're embarrassed to share their feelings about mental health. And this is significant. 49% admit that they're feeling more depressed than they let on.
Yeah. You know, men don't ask for directions when they're lost either. This is male quality of not wanting to get help, go it alone, be brave. It's a noble male quality, but sometimes it can get in your way.
So when you come across men, what do you tell them? How do they get past this hurdle?
A lot of folks think they have to man up. We even have that phrase. If you really want to man up, you want to protect your family. The most important thing a man needs to do, iconically, is to be there for the people in his life. And it's profoundly important to get men to understand that if they're not healthy, they can't walk their daughter down the aisle. They won't be there for the rest of their family if they need some help.
Does depression manifest itself differently in men than it does in women?
Well, there are a lot of more commonalities than there are differences. Men tend to have an irritability thing, perhaps more than women. They get irritable, they get enraged. Men want to go off by themselves. They want to do that anyway, but they want to go off by themselves because they're irritable and nothing feels good. And often they do self-destructive habits like drinking and drug use because nothing feels good.
What do we say to, this series is geared toward men, but it should also be geared toward the women in our lives. How do women play a role in this to try to help guys become more communicative about things like this?
First of all, use sports metaphors. But actually, it literally, you want to say, pass the ball to me, honey. I'm here too. You don't have to do it all yourself. In this survey we did together, we found profound things about men, and they're very different from women. Women want to be there to help. Iconically, a man wants to protect, but the woman wants to be there for him as well. Let women help you. And if women say that to a man, he'll step down a little bit and say, okay, I'll let it happen. Otherwise, they will lie to themselves, they will deny, and we saw this over and over again in the survey.
The message seems to be day after day.
Sports metaphor is good. War metaphors, in fact. Wow. You know, men geared mentally for battle. You don't want to let the enemy know that you're showing weakness. That's where they're going to attack. So you got to respect the fact that a man's got a battlefield mentality and work with it that way.
Doctors, thank you both.
Thank you, Matt.
Appreciate it. Important information. If you have questions for them they're about to take part in a live chat on our Today Health Facebook page, and you can find more information at today.com.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down.
Cool. So that was a really good one that I wanted to show with Dr. Oz talking about the percentages of mental health within, obviously, America. I was trying to find something for the UK. It was quite tricky with mental health. It's pretty rare with the percentages being. Simon said last week. He will come back with loads of data as opposed to the number of men suffering who have been clinically, obviously, diagnosed with mental health, within the BAME community in the UK. So once again, we want to thank you, Francis. Fabulous. Thank you for being on the show.
So much
for sharing your story about, a bit of, issues that you went in during your losses, I should call it. We all, suffer from a loss on one or the other. But you being a close family network of ours, we thought we'll bring you on for you to share your story. And it's quite rare for male to talk about, obviously, concerns about losing people or what they're suffering. Is quite it's stigmatized actually within the community talking about their mental health. So we applaud you for coming in. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a great movement, and I will encourage everybody out there. The last word: look, support Bestel, support it as a channel, support it as a movement. You know what? That's the only way we're going to deal with this if we have our own people dealing with it. So that's why it's a one charity, and that's why I'm quite happy. No one else is going to get me to talk about this again, right?
No, definitely not. No. And thanks for honoring the invitation to come on. I know you only do it for me, so and Bestel. Thanks for coming on. Right, thank you so much.
Yep. So we'd like to acknowledge Bestel Foundation's patron, Mr. Peter Hassler, and also Dr. Shusham Gupta, Mrs. Laura Cullingham, who's a psychologist, Dr. Justina Sherpatswa, who's a consultant psychiatrist, Nash Mamuru, who's a real site consultant, and George Bessa Simons, who's the country coordinator for Bestel in Ghana, Mrs. Marie Mainu, Mrs. Fendi Taylor, Hilda and Miriam, who are both responsible for catering provisions of warm foods to various households, which is priceless and brings smiles on people's faces. They do that every weekend, I believe. So we just want to say a big thank you to these guys who work endlessly behind the scenes to make sure that Bestel Foundation goes on. And also Andy Che, who is in charge of our financing and funding. Thank you for him as well. And we'd like to take this opportunity to remind all our listeners that we're not clinical staff, as we mentioned throughout the show, and we have to keep mentioning that, and that we're just doing what we can to support the community. So on that note, for those that would like to donate to Bestel, because we are a charity, our details will come on this screen soon, where you can donate whatever you want to our bank account. That would be we'd be very grateful for that. And also a big thank you to our sponsors and partners once again, who are NHS, South London and Maudsley, and the National Lottery Community Fund, Diversity Radio, 60 Seconds Creative Studio, Gold Diggers Talk Show, and Base, Become a Successful Entrepreneur. So yeah, I'll hand it over to Jacqui to tell you about our missions and our values before we end the show. And thank you, Francis, once again.
Thank you.
Oh, fabulous. I'm not going to go through all of it because it's 9 o'clock now. It's just about Bestel charitable organization, which is registered here and in Ghana. And the main aim is just to change the stigma of the mental health within the BAME community and raising awareness. The whole aim is about raising awareness within the BAME community. Bestel, as Ms. Newlove said, we're there to support, we're there to act, and we also need a support from the community so that we can support one another. So we'll leave the values and the missions and the rest for next week, because we go through them every week. So thank you so much for our viewers, Sari, Stella, Rosemary Ruba, Nathaniel, Francis, everybody that's come on. Thank you so much, so very, very, very much, and have a good evening, guys. And Big Joe, thanks for being there.
Always. Hi, my name is Miss Newlove, and I'm one of the hosts of a brand new show brought to you by Bestel Foundation.
The Wellbeing Show is to help reach BAME families, to help with mental health, support, and emotional needs. The Wellbeing Show streams live every Tuesday at 8 to 9 p.m. on Diversity Radio via Facebook, YouTube, and Mixcloud. So tell your family and friends to tune in as we discuss topics that affect our well-being. The Wellbeing Show is proudly sponsored by NHS South London and Maudsley, the National Lottery Community Fund, and partnered with Real Insight, Base, 60 Seconds Creative Studio, and Gold Diggers Talk Show.